It's gone up $2 since my last purchase.
Oh, that blows. I didn't get a chance to buy any. Hey there, noodlers. This is Paul Romero on beautiful Wisdom Wednesday, nice and cool and chilly morning here in Phoenix, Arizona. I had to put a blanket on my bed for the first time since can't even remember when, last night. A little bit chilly around here with that little rain we got. And here on October 7th, 2015, Wisdom Wednesday at the Sell a House Wholesale Real Estate Investing number 174. And we have our associate here, Mr. John Leister. Say good morning, John. Or good day, John.
Hey, Paul. Hey, everyone. How's it going? I'm trying this from my new cell phone, the Note 5, which is an awesome phone, by the way. Not that I promote Samsung or cell phone providers, but it's a great phone. Can you see my face?
Yep, you're looking good. And actuality, that phone, the picture and everything's a lot better than your other phone too.
Sweet. So yeah, good morning, everybody, or good day, as we like to say here. We don't like using that word morning. Welcome to the Hangout. And what number did you say this was? Did you say what number it was?
Wisdom Wednesday, number 174.
Oh man, we're getting close to 200. Okay. So thanks for having me on here, Paul, and let me kick it back to you and get the ball rolling here today.
Well, Wisdom Wednesday. I don't know. What are we going to talk about here today? I guess I am, for anybody that's watching this that wants to get some more wisdom this evening, I will be interviewed over in Tempe, Arizona, 6100, I believe, South Rural Road at 7 p.m. for the Real Estate Rock Star series, because you are looking at one of the wholesale real estate rock stars of this state. Of the Western Hemisphere. And so a pair of them, I should say, not just one of them. And so if anybody wants to attend that, I just want to extend that invitation out there. And tonight I will be revealing the truth behind what it takes to be a successful wholesaler what was I going to say? Well, it doesn't matter. But that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be revealing the truth about what
anymore.
So I don't know if we want to go into that a little bit this morning or not, but it's a pretty interesting subject. No comment? Did you go? You're left? Oh, I guess John?
No, I'm back. It froze up for a second on me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I would love to comment, but you froze out. I lost signal for about the last 30 seconds or so.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna jump to an interesting little point here. This is kind of where I sort of plan on ending tonight's deal, and this is something I think might be very interesting for people. I was going to talk about, obviously what we know as the truth to be that, wholesale real estate has nothing to do with real estate, and that, it's all about sales and marketing. And I was looking at ending this evening, with talking about how if I was to advise somebody walked up to me off the street and said, "Hey, I understand you know how to do wholesaling and I want to get started. What should I do?" I would tell them to, well, first of all, yes, start looking around to gather some information on the how-to, how that wholesale real estate is done and what that's all about. But at the same time, I would suggest that you spend at least equal amount of time to what you spend on looking at how-to study marketing. And then I would spend at least twice as much time working on self-development and what it takes to become a master, a better person and a master salesman. And that's what I would advise them to do. And I would give them and if they wanted to work with me, I would say, okay, well, before you even go look at the how-to, I'm going to give you some reading material to start with. And I would tell them to, first of all, because, I would ask them, do you believe that you are a positive person? And are you like, a glass half full or a glass half empty guy? And of course, they're going to be a positive person, glass half full. And I would point out that, you're probably a lot more negative than you think you are. Not that, it's just that's the way it is. That's the way we are as human beings because of the negativity that comes to us from 88% of all the information that we receive on a daily basis. So I would have them first, I would say, go read a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale, and then come back to me. And so that we can get you, give you an idea of how negative you are and how to think a little bit more positively. And then from there, once they came back with that, I would say, okay, now go out and pick up a copy of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich and go read that book and do all the exercises in the book, and then come back to me and tell me what your chief aim is and how you're going to fuel your burning desire to achieve it. And once they've done those two things, now I would say, okay, now you're going to do two things. Now you can start starting to gather up some information about how to wholesale real estate, because now that you are thinking in the right way and you have somewhat of a game plan as to how to get there, we need to now next work on, what are the problems that are going to prevent you from getting there? And you need to become aware, because you can't fix a problem until you know what it is. So the third book that you're going to go out and get right now and read and do all of the projects inside of there is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And this is going to expose the weaknesses and the problems that need to be fixed in order that you can, advance yourself into being a successful wholesaler instead of turning into a wholesaler. And after that, I would have them read The Magic of Thinking Big, because that coincides with the fourth wealth file of The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And this is an area that needs to be developed early on. You need to have big thinking if you want to have big success. After that, I would get them into the heart of what it takes to be successful and have them read How to Win Friends and Influence People, because relationships and communications and being able to relate with people is where your success is really going to come from. And I would have them follow that up with a book called Endless Referrals, written by Bob Berg, which is going to help them develop the techniques and skills to get people to not just be able to read them and communicate and relate with them, but then also to lead them into being able to get these people to like you and to feel like they know you and to feel like they trust you, because people are only going to do business with people that they like, know, and trust. And then before I had them go any further, I'd have them go back and reread all of these books. Maybe not the Power of Positive Thinking, because they've already got that. And I would make The Magic of Thinking Big an optional one, but I would definitely have them go back and redo Think and Grow Rich, go back and redo Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, go back and redo How to Win Friends and Influence People, and go back and redo Endless Referrals. And then I would give them the coup de grace, which would be the secret to success in all areas. And I would set them up with the study course of The Laws of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. And at that point in time, with the knowledge that they've gained from their learning of the how-to and all of these success books to give them the information that they need to be successful in anything that they go after, I would have created a successful wholesaler who does not flail into wholesalerdom. That would be my advice.
You know what? I think that's fantastic. Most successful people read books and read books constantly. I love reading books, articles, things like that. And one thing that I like to do is I like to read articles about the habits of successful people. And there's tons of them, but I want to kind of expand on what Paul is brought up here in his book recommendations and kind of what he would have a wholesaler do moving forward. Day one, start reading books. If you're someone that goes, oh God, I hate reading, so many people do, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful if you're not willing to read books and get new knowledge imprinted into your brain. At the very least, reading books. If you're not into reading books right now, start out by just starting to read different magazines like Success Magazine, Entrepreneur. read articles online about success and habits of successful people. That'd be another place to get started. But I want to backtrack and just say it all starts with a person's burning desire. What is it that you want? What is it? Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? What do you want out of your life? What is your purpose here? And that kind of starts with reading the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That is the go-to book. That's the book where I think everybody should start, because it starts right there. I believe chapter 1 is called Desire, and it's all about you figuring out what your desire is, because anything that you're going to be successful in is going to start with you and how you move towards that goal and your mindset, your way of thinking. It totally starts with you. So that is a great place to start. As Paul said, Power of Positive Thinking, another great book. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, another fantastic book. In fact, such a fantastic book that Paul and I both belong to a mastermind group. I unfortunately haven't been down there for several weeks now. However, since January of 2013, every Tuesday, Paul and I have been going down to, as often as possible, a mastermind group devoted solely to talking about that particular book, and once we complete the book, starting from the beginning and going through that book again. The next book that Paul mentioned there is, once you've got the Think and Grow Rich and you begin to develop the mindset from there, you're gone into Power of Positive Thinking to get your mind thinking positive and how powerful that is, to Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And everybody should be writing these books down, because this is fantastic stuff. And number 4, you said, Paul, was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another book that, if you come on the New Op Day Hangouts, almost used the word Monday there, we talk about that one too, because of how important that is in learning now applicatable skills in dealing with people and how to be successful in that endeavor. I personally haven't read The Magic of Thinking Big, and I have not yet read Endless Referrals, but I know I've discussed those books with Paul and one of our other mentors, and I know that I'm going to eventually be putting those back into my rotation. I'm actually wanting to go through the first 4 books again before moving forward into those. And when you read a book, what's so powerful about a book is that your brain, the way your brain works, it actually absorbs that information, converts it into almost a reality. People literally change after they read a book. Your mind, your brain, your way of thinking literally changes after you read a book, in sometimes very overt ways, but more importantly, in a lot of subconscious, subtle ways. So you want to make sure you're reading the right things, you're studying the right things that are going to progress you forward, because as you're reading, as you're studying, you're being changed on a subconscious level. So it's very important that you include reading books into your daily routine. And Paul just gave a great list of books to get started off on, and it will change you from a wholesaler to a wholesaler. We could probably give examples of how that is true.
It'll prevent you from going from a wholesaler to a wholesaler. One of the interesting thing about all these books too is, well, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind is kind of new. That was only written in the early 2000s. But the rest of them, I think the Magic of Thinking Big might have been written in the 80s or something like that. But Endless Referrals also maybe somewhere around that time. But the others, these books were written back in the 30s and 40s and things like that. And it's because, and so why are they still around, and why are we recommending books that are so old and dated? It's because that the information, the people that wrote these books, the world was a different time back then, and people had actual time to, think and study and learn about life and the laws of the universe and all these things that today, nobody has time for because we're so busy rushing around living a life. And so these concepts that, were written about years ago, or from masters who had, devoted their entire lifetimes to understanding these principles and these laws of success. And it's not something that they just, saw and coordinated and found out about as far as, in their time. Looking back, they realized that these things have been around forever. I mean, these concepts and the way that this all comes about, it's been the core base of humanity since day one. And it's just that, at this point in time in the evolution of man, some of these masters were able to really pull out this information and present it in a way to the public that it makes sense, it's readable, it's understandable, and it's a concepts that that people can actually grasp onto and apply and put into their lives and actually see the results from them. And that's why these older books are still today around. Now, there's a lot of newer books that you can read that relate to these kinds of subjects. But if you read these books that were written way back then and you read the newer books, you'll see that, all the newer stuff comes right out of these books. It's all the same information. It might be presented a little bit different. There might be some additional little twists and turns that are get added in, but the core base is all that same knowledge and information comes out of these older writings.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we would recommend books that are almost 100 years old now. I think that Think and Grow Rich was written right around the Great Depression time. It was released in 1930, but he started developing the ideas and the concepts for the book about 10 years before its release. This is regarding the Napoleon Hill book. Same thing, the secret, the How to Win Friends and Influence People, that book was written like in the 30s or something like that. Still relevant today, because you know what? Technology changes, maybe social norms and social acceptance changes, but there's one thing that's kind of constant, and that's basically human nature and the drives and the motivations behind people's actions. People's don't really change. Social norms may change. Technology may change. Our ideas about things may change, but our basic human drives and our desires and what motivates us, the subconscious mind behind our actions, those things don't really change. So these books are as relevant now as they were then. In fact, to me, looking at the changes we've had in technology, the changes we've had in society, and the fact that, I'm going to say it here, that we just went through a Great Depression. The whole idea that we're coming out of a recession is bullshit. If you look at the context of our last Great Recession in the context of history, it was a depression. And these concepts and these things about motivating yourself and becoming successful and working on your personal development, to me, it's always been important in people's lives, but I think it's more so important now, because what this crash, this depression of '08 has shown me is that the old way of thinking, the old way of doing, the whole idea of I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get a job that's going to carry me from cradle to grave, and I'm going to have some retirement, and the government's going to provide that retirement, and my job's going to provide that retirement, and I'm going to be secure, and I don't have to think for myself. I just got to get up every morning and show up to work at 9 and leave at 5. That is old. That is done. That way of thinking is dead. If that's your way of thinking, you need to get out of that right now and start with some of these books that Paul and I have talked about. Come on these hangouts. And you know what? Wholesale real estate is just one avenue. It happens to be an avenue that Paul and I have a passion for. Maybe you're not passionate about wholesale real estate. That's okay. But the concept behind what we're talking about here is not about wholesale real estate. It's about what you are passionate about. Paul and I happen to be successful at wholesaling real estate because Paul and I are both very passionate about wholesale real estate. Let's just say for a second that this isn't your thing. The books that we're recommending, the concepts, the ideas, what we're talking about here, it's just as relevant no matter what it is that you're passionate about, what your desire, what your purpose is. These concepts are universal and they transcend time, they transcend people, and they transcend culture. At the basic core, all human beings are the same. And I forget where I read this statistic. Quite frankly, I don't even know how they determined it, but it's true. People have 80% of things more in common that they don't have in common. People have more in common whether you're sitting here watching a hangout in the United States of America or you're running around in the Middle East and you're a member of ISIS. Completely opposed to our way of life, our thinking, whatever. The point is, if we sat down and we talked about things, we would realize that we have more in common than we don't. And that's the basic drives behind human nature, which we all are. And that's something to understand, especially when you're dealing with people, is that we have more in common with our enemy than we have uncommon. We have more in common with our friends than uncommon. These are universal things. And that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make here based on, this conversation.
Well, you know what? To back up what you're talking about there about the basic human drives and interests that are, have been and still are the same exact thing, pretty much, that people are all the same kind of a situation is, I'm just going to take something right out of this book that we do on Monday, the How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the recommended books. And there's right towards the very beginning here, he talks about a list of 8 things here. Some of the things that most people want. Okay. Now this book was written in 1936, I believe. You tell me if these aren't some of the things that most people want today. Number 1, health and the preservation of life. All right. I would say that's still probably about number 1. Food. Yeah, we all want food. Sleep. We all want sleep. Money and the things that money will buy. Still the same. Life in the hereafter. Still a pretty popular subject. Sexual gratification. Probably more now than ever before. I don't know if that's ever changed or not, but still. The well-being of our children. Okay, something that everybody still wants today. And a feeling of importance. 1936 to now. This is why we say these books are so relevant today still. None of that has changed. It's all still top priority on every human being walking the face of this planet.
Right. Whether you're in face-to-face conversation with somebody, whether you're talking to that person over the phone, nowadays we have new ways of contacting each other through email. And that's even old school now, text messaging. But the main thing now is social media. You know what? Take these concepts that Paul just talked about, those basic human drives, and keep those things in mind and do this as an experiment. Go on Facebook and look at what people are posting in the news feeds, right? The number one thing that I see posted throughout news feeds is things about health. I see people posting not just things about physical health, but mental health. At least my sphere of influence, my circle of friends, constantly posting things about, quotes about positive thinking, quotes about taking care of themselves, their health, their well-being. Basic human drive. It's right there for you to observe on social media. Great way to connect with people too on social media is, post things that are going to attract people to you, that appeal to that exact concept. Paul mentioned something in there about food. I see people posting recipes about food and articles about healthy foods all the time on social media. It gets a lot of likes. It gets a lot of comments. Hence, it's drawing in the attention of a lot of people. Can you just run through that little list there you came from the book again one more time for me, Paul?
Next one was sleep.
Okay, I don't really see people posting a lot about sleeping, but yeah, people care about,
The next one,
sleeping, getting a good
next,
night's sleep. So
the next one I can guarantee you do, and that was money and the things money will buy.
absolutely, totally. Another thing that people post a lot about, especially now that we're entering into an election year, at least here in the United States, I see a lot of politics on social media. I bring that up too, is because that comes down to something that people feel passionate about. But more importantly than that, reason why I think people get so passionate about politics is because people look to politicians and public policy, as a security blanket. Makes them feel safe, makes them feel like, gives people a sense of belonging, a sense of security. That's why people back politicians, back politics. So, you take all those things, and those are the basic human drives. People's sense of security and people's sense of inclusion basically comes down to one of the concepts right from How to Win Friends and Influence People, and that's about feeling a sense of importance. If I'm backing these politicians to, or I agree with them, and I could post this on my Facebook and people like me, that makes me feel important. That adds, what's the word I'm looking for? Validity to my cause. And that's basically chapter 2, I believe, of that book. And something very important, and it's universal, is people always want to feel like they're important. And the whole concept really behind even social media and tying in these different universal things Paul talked about, health, food, and money, people post it out there because it gives them a sense of importance. They want people to like and comment on them. So that's a great tool there to use, is a social media and putting things on your page to attract people and find out what it is that people are interested in, so you can connect with them and introduce your service or product to them. Basically, we're just driving home the fact that, you got to get out there, expand your knowledge. You got to get out there, read books, because the books are a treasure chest of knowledge. And keep in mind, like the books that we're recommending, Human Nature, it's universal, transcends time. And, with all these different modes of communication, from the cell phone to the internet, now to social media, which is now probably the most prevalent form of communication, is social media. How more obvious these concepts are just in your day-to-day observation of what's going on social media, where we're not a private society anymore. We're a society that shares and airs our everything, from our clean laundry to our dirty laundry, right out there on Facebook and social media for the whole world to see. So, now more than ever, you can really observe what's driving the basic human desires and the basic human urges and needs. It's right there on social media.
Yeah, and just like John said, you look at everything that's out there as far as these posts and things go. Just like you said, just scroll through Facebook, and everything that's on there is going to be, it's what people are interested in, and basically not what they're necessarily what they're interested in, but what they want and what drives them. What drives their decisions and their choices that they make in life. All these things are the basic core of where our thinking comes from. And if generally, like you said, the reason why you have 80% in common with most people than you do only have 20% not in common, is because we all have the same basic drives, urges, needs, and desires to some certain extent. It's not until you get out to the ends, the tips of that, that they start forking off into different things that create the differences between us. It's when you look down deeper in beyond, oh, well, I like eating cheesecake, but and I like eating fudge cake. Well, you know what? You break that down. We all like eating cake because it's sweet and tasty and good, But the little phrase at the end that we all see, that's where on the surface, on the superficial level, so to speak, almost, what's out there, what we can actually see, touch, feel, and smell, the little differences between you and I, whereas if you break those down and you go down into the core, that's where they all becoming, they all boil down to the same exact thing, which is how we are all, basically, like John was saying, so intertwined in, the same type of people. We all have the same basic drives. And because we have those same basic drives, getting into real quickly back into the reason of what makes a successful wholesaler versus a wholesaler is in the understanding of people. When you can develop your own sense of, being able to, understand other people, you realize that, what drives people, and thereby, understanding what drives people, whatever their conversation is, or wherever they're taking, a negotiation or something like that, whatever they're talking about, where you're dealing with people, you have that basic understanding about this, and you can pull from that, and you can use that as sort of the leash to which you can lead them down the path to where you want to go, where you want them to go. And that's really what, it's all about, is you want to get them to look at what you are wanting them to do as the best thing for them. But you got to get them to see it. You can't just tell them that's what it is. You got to get them to see it themselves and understand it and tell you that it's the best thing for them. And that's when you've got yourself a deal. So with that, we're at 9 o'clock here, John. So I hope you guys wrote down the books and go out there and start doing some reading and gathering some new knowledge and thinking in a different way, because it is a new world and it's never going back to the old one. So think about where this world's going, and don't just sit there and let it pass you by. Jump on the train, read some books, get some information, and come along with us to the happy wholesale land.
And for those of you who are local in Phoenix, Paul mentioned this in the beginning of the Hangout. I want to reiterate that Paul's going to be doing a live interview with Kevin Sparks. Kevin Sparks, by the way, was a Rich Dad, Poor Dad advisor. I'm sure anyone who's involved with personal development or finance nowadays knows exactly who Robert Kiyosaki is. Paul has the opportunity to interview with somebody that is a former Rich Dad, Poor Dad advisor. He runs cash flow clubs. He's a member of Renatus. I believe that's Nouveau Riche, or what Nouveau Riche was. That's Kevin Sparks, and he'll be interviewing Paul here tonight. And I believe it's going to be turned into a podcast. So if you miss Paul locally, come back to these Hangouts or send us an email at Property Noodlers so we can get you a link to watch Paul, the real estate rock star, get interviewed by Kevin Sparks. I think that's going to be awesome. I got to apologize in advance, Paul, because I thought it was Thursday night, which would have been great. It's tonight, right? Wednesday?
Yeah.
It's my son's birthday. He's 6 years old. I get to hear, you know what, though? I feel I get to share in Paul's wisdom for probably close to 4 or 5 hours every day anyway. But for those of you who aren't as lucky as myself to be business partners with Paul, who don't have access to him like I do with a simple phone call, I really need to get out and see him do this interview tonight, because I know it's going to be awesome. He's going to cover some of the stuff here, and if I'm not mistaken, he'll clue you into two of the secrets of what wholesale real estate really is all about. But I'm not going to tell you. You got to come watch his interview tonight. So that's just wanted to reiterate that Paul will be doing that tonight, and thank everyone for coming to the Hangout. We'll be back here Friday. I know that I've been kind of a missing face here quite some time this year. Going to change that, so you'll get to see more of this handsome mug, along with Paul Romero, who's a trooper, who's on here 3 days a week, every week, without fail. So that says a lot about his character. So I'm going to toss it over to you, Paul, to go ahead and close us out with the prayer and any final thought.
No final thought. Just come out and experience the interview. Like John said, yes, I am going to be revealing the truth about what it takes to be a successful wholesale real estate investor. And it's the information that you're not going to get anywhere else, but it's going to be the difference between what can make you a wholesaler and avoid the pitfalls of becoming a wholesaler. And with that, O universe, I ask not for more riches, but for more wisdom with which to create better use of the riches given to me at birth, consisting of the power to control and direct my own mind to whatever end I might desire. Everybody make it a great Wisdom Wednesday. We'll see you back here on Freedom Friday. And that's it. Have fun.